New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
New Thought Media Network is excited to present Divine Science Everywhere, Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Come explore a modern experience of divine science. With Reverend Joy Fletcher, Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and Bishop Durrell Watkins. Join us as we open our eyes to divine science everywhere we look. Fridays on New Thought Media Network.
Welcome to Divine Science Everywhere on New Thought Media Network. Divine Science Everywhere features divine science ministers and New Thought guests discussing the principles of divine science, omnipresence. So we're grateful that you are here with us to spend another fun hour. And I'm Reverend Joy Fletcher, and there are many ways that I express ministry. And one of them as a hospice bereavement coordinator. I'm also an end-of-life practitioner, a speaker, and an author, and president of the Divine Science Ministers Association.
Okay. Usually you say, here's Reverend Jeff. No, I'll take it this time. Hi, I'm Reverend Jeff, and a lot of what I do is kind of sort of mirroring what Reverend Joy does. I don't work in hospice anymore, but I have had hospice patients in the past. I am an end-of-life doula as well. I serve on the board of both Divine Science Federation International as well as Divine Science Ministers Association. And you'll find me on Facebook at Giatti Ministries, Giati Ministries. Also, usually on Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Central or 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, I join Michael Mangus on New Thought Media Network for Friday Fireside Chat. He is out of town, so we're having the night off tonight. So don't look for me there. But you can find a rerun, so do that. Durrell.
And I am Bishop Durrell Watkins. Unlike my other two co-hosts, I have no clinical skills. I was a chaplain 100 years ago, and that just let me know that I'm not meant for that. But I am the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale, sunshinecathedral.org. I'm the president of the Divine Science Federation, divinesciencefederation.org. I'm an auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute and a life member of the International New Thought Alliance. I'm an honorary member of Anton, Dean of the Samaritan Institute, which is a religious education and divine science ministerial training ministry. I'm a certified Reiki master and an initiate in Kriya Yoga. I'm a graduate of both Union Theological Seminary and the Episcopal Divinity School, where I earned my doctorate. I studied metaphysics in religious science churches and the College of Divine Metaphysics and at the United Divine Science Seminary. In addition to all that, I try to stay busy. I have a monthly column in Outclick Magazine. This is one of two programs that I co-host on two different networks. And as the senior minister of church, I have board meetings and bulletins and classes and sermons and all that sort of thing. So I never have time for the pool halls, but otherwise I'm a very happy person. And now, of course, as it happens every week, Reverend Joy will lead us in a very meaningful time of centering.
Thank you. Thank you. So today, I'd like you to consider that divine science always begins with the omnipresence, the ever-presence good that surrounds us. And it fills us and it lives through us. Because there is no place where this divine is not. There's no moment absent of Spirit's care. So this omnipresence is comfort in sorrow, our strength in weariness, our wisdom in confusion, our love in relationships. It is abundance flowing to and through and as us for every true need. It is the light that dispels every single appearance of a shadow. It is wholeness permeating mind, body, and emotions. So let us rest in the awareness of the presence and the power of the divine, the omnipresence of the beloved, of God, of divine energy. Feel it as the air that you breathe. It is your heartbeat within you. And also that radiant stillness that surrounds you, moves and operates through you, guiding you moment by moment. And so these words from Divine Science and Healing, its first publication was in 1907. The only true salvation there is oneness with God, the all good. And if oneness is not accepted, then salvation is not apparent. And we are afraid that we will lose our health, or else we are desiring to regain it. He who is ever with you will heal. So let us breathe in and embody this truth. As Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, is quoted as saying, all prayer, all request is for healing. Healing can express itself in many forms. Salvation is not a far-off promise, not a reward given in another time or place or dimension. Salvation is here and now. Salvation is the constant awareness and realization of our unity with the divine. It can never be broken. It may appear to be away from us, but that's an illusion. It is always, always here and now, and shall be forevermore. When oneness is accepted, salvation is apparent. All fear dissolves. Healing is manifest. Strength is apparent. And we recognize that it is this one presence that heals. In this presence, there is no separation. In this presence, there is no lack. In this presence, there is no sickness, no weakness, no death. Divine science affirms prosperity. It affirms immortality. It does not recognize a partial truth or temporal life, and no death, for this truth is within us. We are an expression of eternal life. For science tells us that energy cannot be destroyed. It simply changes form. Each of us is comprised of energy, this divine energy. Religion affirms the same. Life is eternal. Spirit cannot perish. It has always been, always is, and always will be. We are that life. We are that spirit. And we are at one with this awareness. So anchoring in the words that lift us into healing and freedom. Life is all in all. I am life exempt from death. I am substance exempt from mortality. I am divine intelligence. I am power unending. I am what is, was, and evermore shall be. This is the true freedom that's been promised to us. Knowing that we live and move and have our being in this eternal truth, divine life. Again, I am life, exempt from death. I am substance, exempt from mortality. I'm intelligence, divinely expressing. I am power unending. I am what is, what was, and ever shall be. Just feel the power, the strength, the awareness that these words, this vibration brings to you in this moment. This awareness is also prosperity, which is wholeness in every expression. It shows up as happiness in our hearts, as food on our tables, shelter, healthy relationships, beautiful nature, compassion, love. This awareness is healing, not as a fight against symptoms that may appear, but rather a reminder, a nudge, an encouragement to yield to the truth of your being, which is wholeness. Healing unfolds as we place ourselves consciously in the awareness of our true nature of being. So let us speak with authority, without doubt, without fear. I am that I am that I am. And this awareness is salvation. Knowing that God, the all good, omnipotent, is inseparably present now and always. And thank you, Spirit, for this awareness, for the ability to recenter ourselves, remind ourselves that we live in the flow of divine energy, divine love, divine life. And a reminder that we are always connected to our source and to one another. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for that time of sharing. And you may not always have time to, or think you have time to carve out 8, 10, 12 minutes of just guided or specific meditation. But you can always do a minute. You can, I tend to start my day first thing with that. So if you don't have 10 minutes, I bet you have one. Although there's an old Zen saying that says you should meditate an hour every day unless you're too busy, and then you should meditate 2. So the time for silence is super, super important. We're always discursive thinking, always reading, always learning, always talking. It's super, super important just to calm and be present and reconnect with our source. So, and we do that every week here on Divine Science Everywhere. Now, I want to just tell us about a few new thought luminaries. The first one I want to mention is Mary Emma Dryden. She was born in 1939. She made her transition in 2022. And she served from 2009 until her transition as the senior minister of Quimby Memorial Church in Secaucus, New Jersey. She had also been the president at least once, maybe a couple of times, of the Divine Science Federation. And when I was vice president and then first president, my first term as president, she was the secretary of Divine Science Federation. She was a wealth of knowledge of institutional memory. She was committed to principle. She was kindness, walking and talking. She was so amazing. So Mary Emma Dryden, a friend of mine, if you knew her, she was a friend of yours, because that's what she was. She just loved people. But she's only been gone for about 2.5 years. And so we remember her and bless her memory, and her memory is a blessing to us. The next person I want to mention is Goddard Neville, born in 1905 and made his transition in 1972. Neville was born in Barbados and moved to the U.S. in 1922. He was a writer and a public speaker. One of the things he wrote was, "An awakened imagination works with a purpose. It creates and conserves the desirable and transforms or destroys the undesirable," end quote. He was mentored by a mystic known as Abdullah and provided psychological insights into religious themes and texts. I believe that Dr. Tim Stewart, that's one of his favorites, the president of the International New Thought Alliance, former president of Divine Science Federation, and a disciple of Goddard Neville. Then also, I want to tell you about Carly Dawson. You may not know much about Carly Dawson. Maybe you don't even think you've heard of her. But if you have read the DSFI At One Daily Studies in Divine Science, you've seen some of her reflections several times. She was a composer and an actress and a novelist and a translator and a minister and a teacher. And as I said, her reflections appear in the At One Daily Studies. And the last divine scientist I want to tell you about is Carrie Moons. Now, that may sound a little more familiar. Maybe you also don't know exactly what she was about. Carrie Moons was the assistant minister at First Divine Science in Denver, and I believe she held that position for a lot of years. She was a teacher at the Divine Science College during Nona Brooks' time of leadership, and you'll see her writings also in the DSFI at One Daily Studies in Divine Science. So those are Mary Emma, Goddard Neville, Carly Dawson, and Carrie Moons. Those are the ones I want to share with you today. All good folks. And a lot of those you can You can read in the daily studies, and I believe all of them, maybe not Goddard, but all of them, other than Goddard, including Mary Emma, probably have some reflections that show up in your daily emails, your daily Divine Science studies. And if you aren't getting those, just email Kevin at sunshinecathedral.net and tell him you want to be added to the Divine Science Daily Studies. They're free, and they show up in your mailbox email every single day. Well, thanks for this time of looking back over the great luminaries. It's time to do a little business, and then we're going to get into some good teaching today. But first, let's remember that this is Divine Science Everywhere on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is excited to present Divine Science Everywhere, Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Come explore a modern experience of divine science. With Reverend Joy Fletcher, Reverend Jeff Radcliff, and Bishop Durrell Watkins. Join us as we open our eyes to divine science everywhere we look. Fridays on New Thought Media Network.
Well, welcome back. We have got some interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to kick things off. New Thought in general, as you probably know, started out as a healing movement back with Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. Way back in the early part of the 17th or the 19th century, the 1800s. One of the people who drew on him for inspiration was Mary Baker Eddy, who founded Christian Science. Mary Baker Eddy became acquainted with Emma Curtis Hopkins, who eventually was disassociated from Christian Science and started teaching metaphysical principles as well. And she taught everyone from the Fillmores to Ernest Holmes. About the same time that she was teaching on the East Coast, we had Melinda Kramer, who was coming into her own on the West Coast in San Francisco, and she came to some conclusions about physical healing because she was seeking healing for herself, and she asked, what is there a power that can heal me in the universe? And it took a little bit of time, but she spent the mental coin, so to speak, to eventually find her healing. And she teamed up with the Brooks sisters, who were coming to some of the same conclusions that Melinda did on their own. So they teamed up to bring divine science into this. So the entirety of New Thought is a healing movement. And back in the day, if you did not live in a city where there were doctors and hospitals, if you were out in rural America, you may not see a doctor all that often. Just like you didn't see ministers. A lot of times, like with the United Methodist Church, there were people were so far flung out that they had a circuit rider, and the preacher would come in maybe one Sunday a month, and you'd all have services then. And then he'd go around to the different towns and communities. Well, when you have no doctors in the area, it becomes necessary to find other healing methods. And that's what we do here in Divine Science. In the book, and I've got it right here, Divine Science and Healing, it talks about Melinda's journey into healing. Talks about her own foray into healing herself, but then it talks also about some of what she experienced as she began to teach other people how to heal themselves. And she said that that was the point of divine science, was to teach people to heal themselves. She makes three really good cases. She presents three really good cases. One of a girl who had consumption, which I believe is tuberculosis. Now, according to the writing, she called it quick consumption. So I'm not sure what makes it quick, but Melinda did prayer work with her, and she was healed. Another woman, an invalid for 17 years, the woman's doctor's wife was a friend of Melinda's, and when Melinda came back from seeing this woman, the woman was healed. The invalid was healed, and so the doctor's wife said, "Well, yeah, my husband's treated her for years, and he didn't even know what to call what she had. So, what did you call it? What was her disease, and how did you cure it?" And Melinda said, "Truth is what healed her, because I neither saw nor named the disease. All she knew was truth." And there was another woman that she talked about who was in pain a lot of years, and Melinda cured her as well. Melinda gives us some advice on how to be healed. And one of the things that she said, Bishop Durrell talked about, if meditate for an hour, and if you're too busy, meditate for 2. Well, Melinda was a proponent of at least pulling yourself away from the cares of the world for 20 minutes twice a day. And she was an early proponent of what Emmett Fox later coined as the golden key, where she said, pull your attention away from what is ailing you, consider on God. And she said, if you're seeing a practitioner, a mental healer, she said, relax for that 20 minutes, just the mind go. And she said, if you want to fall asleep, fall asleep. The practitioner will know the truth for you. But she said, if you're working on your own healing, she said, just think of the qualities of God. And she mentions what became the divine science statement of being as one of the great healing affirmations, which says God is all, both invisible and visible, one presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, perfect substance. And we are the individualized expression of God, and ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Now, that's a great healing statement. That's a great affirmation. It's like, for me, it's like the Catherine Ponder affirmations. They're beautiful. They're truthful. But oh my God, they're so long. Me, I like it a little shorter. So you'll find me saying just basically, God is, I am, we are one. Realizing that within spirit is everything that you would need to not only heal your body, but to heal your life circumstances, your finances, your romantic life, whatever it is that you need. Put your mind on God, because all those aspects of divinity are within you, and you can draw on those to bring forth into your existence whatever you need to be healed. So, we are a healing movement. First and foremost.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. I love what you shared. And we, as on the human journey, spiritual beings having the human experience, sometimes experience changes in our bodies and our circumstances. And there comes a time where I believe that, yes, you're affirming the truth, and at the same time, recognize that in spite of what is manifesting in the outer, that there is that call for a deeper awareness of that spirit within. And whether it manifests as a perfect, vibrant, youthful body, or what appears to be a disability or a challenge, we are much more than those experiences.
Yeah. I remember when I was diagnosed with a chronic and at the time considered terminal disease in the 90s, and I talked to a practitioner about it, and her immediate response was, "Well, that's just information." Like she reminded me right off. I was completely free to do what I wanted to do with that information, but it was just okay. Test results say this. She said this wonderful saying. She said, "Okay, so what? Now what? This is what are you going to do now?" And it was an amazing way to get me to refocus my attention. It was a way to get me sort of golden key, I guess, to turn away from the problem and to what was good and what was possible. And so I've had a lot of really amazing healing successes. I wore glasses from the time I was 12. And then I was like legally blind in one eye. I had a detached retina, torn retina in the other eye, this big old mess. I went into just the local, optometrist, where they upsell you some glasses and sunglasses and whatever. But she was a professional, and she somehow got me in with one of the best retinal specialists in the state. And he was the only one in the county available because there was a ophthalmologist convention in Las Vegas, and he was one of the few people in the whole county to stay and work. And so I got this extreme specialist during a very unusual time, and now I don't wear glasses and I have 20/20 vision. This is the end of that story. There was another time that my whole life I was allergic to cats. Once someone had to move in with me, she had some difficulties. I said, "Well, just come stay with me," but she had a cat, and I'm like, "Well, we'll deal with it." So she got me an air filter to protect me from the cat. And it worked amazingly. I was so glad I could breathe freely. I'm like, oh, thank God for this air filter. And then about 3 months later, I thought, well, I should probably change the filter. These things probably get clogged up eventually. So I opened the air filter. The filter part was still in plastic. It had never done a thing. I am breathing free and clear for 3 months with a thing that never once worked because I had not unwrapped the filter part from the plastic. Well, I threw it out, and I've never been allergic to cats since. And so I just so many things like that. Other things, not as I've had to work harder at a lot of things, but I've had a lot of healing experiences, and sometimes they've been quick and fun like that. Sometimes it's been a long time. I had a bunion for like 15 years, and I couldn't get anyone to do surgery on it. And finally, I found a podiatrist who also wouldn't do surgery on it, but he gave me this medicine. No one else had offered me any medicine. Gave me this medicine. And it became like 80% better overnight. I have no pain. I can move my toe. So I guess I officially still have it, but it doesn't matter now. And that took 15 years to get to that spot. But so sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it takes forever. Sometimes it's partial. Sometimes it's full, complete. But there was a healer in the 40s or 50s, I think. And she said about that very sort of thing. She said, if we had the right consciousness, yeah, we could heal anything like that in a moment. We would just know the truth would manifest, and we'd go on to the next thing. She said, but most of us aren't there. Mm-hmm. Certainly not there all the time. Maybe not there in the moment you'd like it to be. So she said, I could tell this peach tree to produce peaches, and it would do it instantly, and I would have a peach. But until that happens, I plant the peach tree, I wait for it to grow, and in the meantime, I go to the supermarket. And she said that's the way healing works. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes it takes a while. She said, so if it works instantly, hooray. If it takes a while, go to the doctor. Either way, the same truth is at work.
And Melinda also addresses that.
Individuals that helped you are a channel to help you. It's not that they did it. You had to be receptive in order to experience that.
Yeah. And Melinda addresses that. She said, if you're working with a minister or a practitioner towards your healing, she said the healer may ever be so desirous to heal every patient quickly, but if the patients are in the habit of nursing their seeming diseases and guarding them with zealous care, the healing will be much slower than it otherwise would be. Insofar as patients give up the belief in diseases as a reality and cease to think and talk about them, do they become non-existent. This is as true to a nation as to an individual. And that makes perfect sense. When I was in social work school, we were talking about how the family dynamics changed whenever an alcoholic or a drug addict decided to start going to 12-step meetings. It changes the whole dynamic of the family. And it just upends everything. People don't know what to do with themselves. And some people identify with themselves. Who will I be if I don't have this disease? People are used to helping me because of my physical condition. If I get healed, I won't have that. So, people can be resistant to their healing.
People, when the combination therapies came out for HIV, there was actually people who had prepared to die. They had sold their life insurance policies. They had, they had a plan. They were going on world cruises because this was their last chance, blah, blah. And then here comes this medical miracle. They actually had to go into therapy because it was a big shock because they had been prepared to die and now they had to prepare to live. And they weren't expecting that. And so a lot of people had a lot of anxiety and grief and confusion. There was a big uptick in therapy when this good thing happened. Medicines came out that would save your life, but it took such a mind change that people had to have help with that.
Yes, and questioning, who will I be without this situation? Who am I? I'm so used to being associated with this identity.
Yeah.
And by the same token, there are a lot of people, and she brings this up as well. She said, don't listen to what other people have to say about your condition. She said, because one of these days you will heal and you won't have that condition anymore. But people are going to ask you, well, how are you doing? How is this? How is that? And she said, that keeps you in the same mindset that you still have the problem, that you still have the disease. She said, don't listen to other people.
I once did a healing service early in my ministry in the 90s. I was young, maybe not even quite 30 myself, and I did this healing service in a rural town in Texas. And this guy who was practically crippled with arthritis, he wouldn't get out of his house weeks at a time. When he did get out, he was totally dependent on a cane, constant pain all the time. He was in this service. Suddenly, I'm seeing him all the time. He's getting out every week. He's going to church picnics. He's going to the movies. He's going out to eat. He's just living the life of Riley all at once. I'm ready to hit the circuit. I'm the next Oral Roberts, right? I'm ready. I'm gonna have a TV thing. Like I have got the gift. And so I asked him one time, shortly after that, I said, "What happened? You came, we prayed, you got, and apparently got healed. So what's that about?" He said, "Well, I did get healed. I'm still in a lot of pain." But what I got healed was not letting the pain dictate my life. And I was so focused on the pain that I didn't do anything else. Now, the pain doesn't control me. I do what I do. I have a lot of joy in my life. I'm living my life. And he said, yeah. And he said, I keep the cane in the car now. I don't use it all the time, but I keep it in the car in case I want some sympathy. But he said, mostly like what was keeping me from living my life was fear and pity and my mindset. He said, what got healed was my mindset. And now I'm living this miraculous life with arthritis. And so I was a little disappointed that he still had pain, but I was super excited that the pain, he beat the pain. The pain was no longer robbing his life. And so there's so many ways to be. And a lot of times people will say, I've had people, they want me to pray for a thing. And I said, well, have you seen your doctor about this? Have you talked to a pharmacist? Have you seen a therapist? Oh, I want to be healed without all that. Well, then you may not want to be healed, because you're putting a lot of conditions and the universe seems to be offering you a lot of options. And if you're going to limit the options, you may be limiting the possibilities. If it's all God, if God is omnipresent, God's in the medicine, God's in the surgeon, God's in the fresh air, God's in the pharmacy, God's, so when you're saying, I want God to do it, but I don't want God to do it this way, I think you're putting up needless roadblocks.
And like your Texas guy said, he still had the pain, but he did not let it overcome him. And that is a good argument for the use of denials as well as your affirmations. Yes. You can't build a house on top of another house. You have to tear down the old house before you can build the new house. That's what the denials do. The denials let us know, hey, this condition, whatever it is, it may be a fact in my life, but it is not the truth in my life. Right. Then you bring the affirmation in, which tells the truth of who you are, the truth that is unchanging. So
this happened a lot with clients, patients with HIV. They would come to say, I have HIV, HIV doesn't have me. I was able to share that once with someone with diabetes. He had the same amazing result. I have diabetes, it does not have me. And for the first time in decades, he started getting better. So yeah, this is the thing. This is information. But it only has as much power as I give it.
Right.
And so
and healing comes in many ways, many ways. And I feel that, as you were talking about that gentleman, to the decision to not let pain control his life. He enjoyed his life.
That's healing.
And that is healing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we talked about this with one of our guests a few weeks ago, the difference between healing and a cure. And I think a lot of people are looking for a cure that doesn't happen. So if you're praying for somebody and they die, did you fail? Not necessarily. They were healed of their condition. They may not have been cured, but they were healed.
Right.
And I've seen examples of when a patient is on hospice and they're going through the process of dying. Sometimes families, the relationships are healed as a result of that.
Always
they come
beautiful.
together, and it's an opportunity to step back and recreate the relationship and acceptance and so forth. So healing comes in many ways. And death is not a failure. It's
inevitable. It's going to happen. I promise.
Exactly.
I can't make a lot of promises, but I promise you, eventually you'll take a last breath in this body.
Right.
That'll happen.
And it's just a body. It's just energy that changes form.
Exactly.
We're eternal. And death is not a failure. And I truly believe that challenges in our life is not a failure.
Right.
It's an opportunity for a healing of that sense of separation from our source.
We are conscious.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Some schools of thought believe that death is a failure. And then some schools of thought think it's a reward. I've heard people, they've gone to the reward. Right. And it's just a different way of seeing it. It's if death is going to change their connection with source, with love.
One of the primary legends or myths or traditions of Tibetan Buddhism is that when this bodhisattva makes this transition, he comes back, as the next Dalai Lama. We currently have the 14th one. Well, he comes back as the next one. Well, that can't happen if he doesn't leave the previous incarnation, right? Same thing with Easter. Easter is this huge, like the primary primary Christian myth. Well, you don't get it without Golgotha. You don't get Easter without Good Friday. And so, it's not failure. It's just one more chapter in the story.
And the great thing is, the consciousness that we have right now while we are alive does not change when the body dies. I'm alive. I'm awake. I'm aware in my consciousness now. Body dies. I'm still alive, awake, and aware. It's almost like your guy in Texas. Life may have me, but I don't have life in this respect. But then I don't have life, but now I do. So
we have the clock is ticking here. Reverend Joy has mentioned in her meditation and in the discussion about all kinds of things, including immortality. And I hope to get back to her so that she can say a few more words, because kind of her bailiwick. She's kind of an expert at that with that particular ministry. I just want to say about finances, about prosperity. It's almost identical to what we've been saying about healing. It's just one more thing to be healed. And Reverend Joy said that in the meditation, that whatever we want is healing. If you want better finances, that's healing your finances. If you want a better relationship, that's healing in your relationship. Like, what we want is healing. That's what we're always sort of praying for. And the same thing with as with health. There's so many ways to get prosperity. It may not look like winning the lottery. It may not mean being the president of an international corporation. It may not mean being the great grandchild of a zillionaire. Those are all things that can happen. But sometimes those people aren't happy, and if you're not happy, you're not wealthy. Sometimes those people are afraid that people only like or love them because of their wealth. Well, if you're scared of that, if you feel lonely, well, that's not wealthy. That wealth, happiness, prosperity It's about my needs are met. I trust that my needs are met. And those needs include love, happiness, health. And so prosperity, yeah, you're not prosperous if you're hungry, but you also can be prosperous even if you don't own a jet. I mean, so when people accuse us of being health and wealth or prosperity gospel, I don't think they understand this, especially divine science. You could accuse other new thoughters of that, but from the beginning, divine science has said, we're all about the omnipresence. Once you realize you are one with God, then you can trust God to show up in the way you need most. Mm-hmm. And that's prosperity. If having $1 zillion wouldn't make you happy, God's not going to force it on you. God wants you to be happy. God wants joy because God is joy. And so God wants to express in, through, and as us as joy. So you're not going to have joy if you're hungry, but you also might not have joy if you have 7 mansions. Or you could have, I think Oprah, who's a self-made billionaire, she does so much good with her voice, with her presence, with her money. She should probably be a billionaire. She's doing all the things a billionaire ought to do. Other people, their billions are not helping the world. I don't even think it's helping them. So it's an individual thing, but the God in you knows what's best for you. And that's where divine science, I think, differs a little bit from the others, is that we're one with God. We're going to allow God to express in, through, and as us in perfect ways. And that doesn't look the same for any two people. If you're happy, if you're content, if your life is a joy, you are abundantly rich, more than most people, in fact. I just want to leave you with a few words before Reverend Joy takes over. Nona Brooks said that she emphasized the unity of humanity with divine substance. And because we're one with God, we are inherently connected to and can draw from this infinite source of abundance. Mm-hmm. She said, and this is sort of a golden key situation, she loved the Bible verse, seek ye first the kingdom of God and God's righteousness, and then all these things that you need shall be added unto you. And she distinguished, under her leadership, distinguished divine science from other New Thought groups by not focusing on visualizing abundance, visualizing that new house or that swimming pool or that second house or that beach house or whatever. She didn't want you to focus so much on material desires. Nona Brooks said the emphasis was on trusting that God knows what is best and that a consciousness of divine omnipresence will bring about one's highest good. And that certainly includes prosperity.
I'd love to have seen her duke it out with Neville Goddard on that one, because Neville was all about the visualization.
She was honest that we differ in this one thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like the imagination and blah, blah, blah. I think she just thought that, yeah, you can probably make that happen, but will that make you happy? If you're forcing it, you may not love it when you get it. So I don't think she wasn't saying it didn't work. I just thought she had a better way. Melinda sort of agreed, Melinda Kramer, that it's all about, realizing your oneness with God and creation. And then because you're cooperating with that, you can manifest that. And her tools for manifestation basically was affirmative prayer, knowing the omnipresence, knowing you're one with the one power, and then affirming from that your truth, and then allowing that to be made manifest. And then Emmett Fox had sort of a little twist on that too. He, of course, his golden key turned from the problem to God. God's the answer. God's all good, this higher power. That mental shift changes your experience. He also thought gratitude was important. The more you're grateful for, the more you have to be grateful for. And forgiveness, he thought, was important, that holding grudges could get in the way of your good. So turning from the problem to God, forgiving past annoyances, being grateful for what you have at the moment, which opens up, to more good. Those were his. But how these do differ from like Neville and others, Goddard, is that divine science. That doesn't mean that divine science can't. A divine science can do anything she wants to do. But historically, our founders, our pioneers, were less focused on imagine the mansion. They were focus on God and God's good. And if God's good for you as the mansion is going to turn up. But God's not going to get, but the power of God, the power that God is, wants you more than having a mansion, wants you to have peace and joy and happiness. And if it takes a mansion, you're getting a mansion. But if a mansion would get in the way of that, then that's not what you want anyway, really. You just think a mansion is going to make you happy. What you want is to be happy. And that one person you can't live without might not make you happy. $1 billion might not make you happy. Living to 106 may not make you happy. What you want when you say those things is, I want to be happy, and I think those things will make me happy. Our pioneers would say, well, God is in agreement with you that you should be happy. But the thing you want may not bring you the happiness you deserve.
And thank you. Thank you. Yes, Jeff?
Yeah,
Yes.
like Ernest Holmes said, there's power in the universe greater than I am, and I can use it. Well, you know what? We can use it to the extent of our physical human capabilities, but our mind has evolved over thousands of years. We are able to hold now concepts that we weren't able to hold 5,000 years ago. But there's still so much more out there because the divinity, the omnipresence, is infinite intelligence. So there's still more out there, and it knows better than I do. Like you said, what's going to make me happy. So.
And sometimes that focus on manifesting something else takes us away from living in the moment. You know, the words give us this day our daily bread. We don't need any more than in this moment. And
nothing else exists. Right now is all there is. Nothing else exists. Right now is all there is. Yeah.
Yes, the present. And yet, speaking of immortality, some people are so fearful of the future, of dying, that they don't live right now. We're not in the present. I was fascinated to read some things out of this divine science and healing about the concept of immortality, and it means just the quality of being immortal. Well, we are. However, in our human mind, we think that means that we're going to be in the same vehicle. Well, don't we turn in our automobile after a certain period of time?
Yes.
I mean, and everything just changes form. We exist always. We may not be here in physical form, and you know, I have so many dear ones that are in spirit, and I can feel their presence. And I admit, though, sometimes I wish I could pick up a telephone and hear their voice like I remember it, or spend time like we used to. And yet those thoughts that we're immortal and we're constantly connected to our source comforts me. It draws me close. And the same thing about life. In this book, there's reference of comparing immortality to scientific research, what I think is fascinating. And it talks about how there can be no separation in energy or source. It's always there. It just changes form. So, and it says divine science and natural science meet in the infinitude and the omnipresence of God, the unity of all. Divine science has a definite system of teaching based on and in the allness of everywhereness of the one and the nowness of eternal life. We are right here, right now, living and moving and have our being in this eternal life. We are immortal. I love the concept of, I've heard some bereaved tell me this, that their loved one stays alive as long as their name is remembered and they're talked about.
I think that's a Jewish concept. And I think that is the point of the Last Supper, where Jesus says, when you do this together, when you share meals like this together, remember me. I think that is the Jewish concept of immortality. As long as you're talking about me, I'm here. As long as you're thinking about me, I'm here. Like, that's the resurrection. You're keeping him with us and to this day, we tell that story. We pass the bread and the wine, and we think about Jesus, and Jesus is with us. And so I love that idea. It's an ancient Jewish concept, and I buy it. That of course your essence doesn't go anywhere, but the incarnation that people loved and admired and remembered is there every time you remember it.
That's
and
right.
So he was very wise to say, remember me. I'm still here if you remember me. I think that was genius. The genius of Mr. Jesus. And I often tell people when they're afraid, I mean, I think we're all a little, maybe anxious or uncertain about the unknown. We don't know what the next thing is going to look, but I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. I don't know what's going on in my front yard right now or my back garden. Like, you just don't know what you know what I mean? So there's some natural anxiety about what you don't know and what you can't control. But if it is the case, and I honestly believe it is, if it is the case that God is omnipresence, then there's not any other presence, there's not any other reality, not any other power. That if God is omnipresent, then there's no way to be separated from it, because there's nothing else anyway. So this experience of the divine that I'm calling Durrell for a few decades, that really is an expression, but what it's expressing is forever. It's been for forever. It's going to be for forever. And so the omnipresence is what takes away the irrational fear of the unknown. Because if we trust that God is basically all there is, what's to be afraid of? The only anxiety is I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be God, so it's going to be good.
Yeah. And that concept of I'm not afraid of slipping into the invisible. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I have this anxiety of the idea of leaving behind, if there is such a concept, and there really isn't, like my grandchildren or something like that. So, that's just the humanness, but yet I know that we're always connected and that we'll be communicating in a different way.
Sure.
That's all.
There's one life. So there's one life. And it's forever. Y'all, once again, we are at the end of time.
How did that happen?
How did that happen? I have asked our producer to run all the ads at the end. So Joy, if you'll give us your final spiel about what's coming up and what we've got to do, then he's going to spend the last 2 or 3 minutes just running our ads. I didn't want to interrupt our discussion though for that. So
well, thank you. Next week we're going to continue a discussion, more divine science teachings. Yes, Jeff.
Maybe we can revisit this. I mean, we just took cursory looks at healing and prosperity and immortality. Maybe eventually we will come back and can devote an entire hour to each one.
I promise. Yeah, sure.
Yes. So I love that. But next week we will return and talk some more about divine science topics. And on October 10th, our guest is Reverend Dr. Morita Wiggins, a divine science minister. And the following week is Reverend Dr. Ollie Benjamin from CSL, and she also has a show on New Thought Media, Living Edge. And then we have more to look forward to as we go forward. And thank you so much for joining us today for, as I said, another fun hour. And please do like and share us and keep coming back. We appreciate you. And meanwhile, this is Divine Science Everywhere on New Thought Media Network.